Cregan there lives a white hare, as swift as the swallow that flies through the air. You may tramp the world over, but none to compare to the pride of old Cregan, that bonny white hare. One clear autumn morning, as ye will suppose, oh, the red golden sun o'er the green mountain rose. Barney Conway came down and he did declare, oh, this day I'll put an end to the bonny white hare. So he searched through the lowlands and down through the glens, all among the wild ditches where the white hare did ends, till at last coming down over the heather so fair, from behind the wild thistle out jumps the white hare. Bang, bang went his guns and his dogs he slipped to, as swift as the wind o'er the green mountain flew. But his dogs soon came back and it made Barney sigh, for he knew that the white hare had bid him goodbye. And we're some jolly sportsmen down here from Pomeroy, from Cookstown, Dungannon and likewise the Moy. With our pedigree greyhounds we travel from far, and we've come down to Cregan in our fine motor car. Oh, well, into the lowlands these huntsmen did go, in search of the white hare they'd look high and low, till at last Barney Conway from a bog bank so rare shouted out to the huntsmen, there lies the white hare. So they called up their greyhounds from off the green lea, Barney and the huntsmen all jumped high with glee. It was there on the bog bank all gathered around, 7 dogs and 9 men did that poor hare surround. Oh, no wonder that the white hare did tremble with fear, as she stood on her hind legs she would raise her big ears. As she stood on her hind legs with one gallant spring, she jumped over the greyhounds and broke through the ring. Well, that chase it went on, it was a beautiful view, as swift as the wind o'er the green mountain flew. But those pedigree greyhounds, they didn't run far. I came back and went home in their fine motor car. Then there came another man, and you all know him well. His name was McKelly with the bonny black bell. Oh, in search of the white hare today I'll have fun. I'll bet 50 to 1 my black bell will her turn. 5 turns the hare got in from bonny black bell, and the 6th one was given around Gian Hoggy's well. It was there we lost sight of the hare and the dog, and then 10 minutes later came more the black bong. Well, that chase it went on, it was great for to see, the white hare and the black dog both their own light and free, till she travelled to Westcar where she knew the lands well, and to bonny black Bella there soon bid farewell. Conclude and to finish this rhyme, I hope you forgive me for singing all this while. If there's any amongst you in Carrickmore fair, please drink up a health to that bonny white hare.
All right. I apologize. I do have a hoarse voice, and it is not going to be easy for me to do this segment. No, we're not going to be talking NFL, Arjun. Shut up. It's the wrong season. It is over, so we'll probably talk about that, maybe never, because there's other shit we have to talk about that we don't have time for. Also, sorry for the hair. I just got out of the shower and never combed it. So, basically, we're going to be discussing the future of the U.S. political system because there is clear dissension spreading right now due to, obviously, the defeat of whatever efforts the Republicans made in 2020, specifically, of course, the loss of the White House. And I'm phrasing it that way because, there's plenty of controversy and allegations about why Donald Trump, of course, isn't in the White House anymore. And I'm not really going to be dealing with it here because I think a lot of it I'll probably agree with you. And then, on the other hand, I think that there's very little value in discussing it any further right now because nothing can be done about it. There's no available capacity for any of the justice system to adjudicate what happened because, first of all, the administration that's in power has no interest in actually talking about what happened. And also, there is, there's basically been what I would consider an implosion of confidence in the political system as a whole. You have progressives who no longer have confidence in the Democratic Party whatsoever, based on the performance of the Biden administration. And you have conservatives who are no longer confident in the future of the Republicans, right? So you have a ripe climate right now for people to explore, and I don't think that they'll succeed, but they're going to explore at least options for what they're going to do in order to break away from the two-party system. Now, unfortunately, because of the way that our economy works and the way that there's such a connection between people in power and people in government, no, I don't think that the two-party system can be defeated unless there's some sort of major unrest that is long-standing, right? And I don't know what that form could take, but we're not at that point quite yet. I think it could happen, though. Arjun, you're not even gonna don't even try right now. I'm gonna put Arjun on mute because I don't even know what the hell he's doing. Talking about Tom Brady. That was the last stream. So yeah, Arjun, you're on mute right now. He's gonna send me all of these. He's gonna send me some private messages later. Yeah, I mean, you brought it on yourself, man. I'm just gonna laugh at him for a second. I'll bring you off here. I'll unmute you. Let me see here. Man, what a waste of time here. Yeah, I was trying to... Okay, we'll see here. View deleted message. Okay, so... Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Okay, here we go. So yeah, he's in timeout. In any case, yeah, what a mess, man. Don't get me off topic. So... what we're talking about is this process that's already started where you have Nikki Haley, who is the former governor of South Carolina. She came out and she did an interview with Politico where she said, well, we shouldn't have even followed Donald Trump. That was a mistake, and we're not going to expect him to come back in 2024 So forget it. That's basically what she said. She said that among other things. She said, I don't think he's going to be in the picture. I don't think he can. He's fallen so far. And Haley's comments may cost her some support among Trump's base, a constituency that will be important to any future Republican nominee and one that he had worked hard to avoid offending since leaving his administration in 2018. Now, I could tell you that this is not going to maybe alienate her from Trump's base. She is done, and it's particularly fascinating for me that many people continue to hold her out as the premier candidate, and I'm talking about people I know. They like her, Nikki Haley, for a number of reasons. First of all, that she's female, that she's a minority. She's I believe she's half Indian, if not fully Indian by ethnicity, and she is also, I would say, also like many times it's because she has a very strong pro-Israel stance. And that's one of the reasons that I think that people are delusional about her potential for being a nominee for president, right? And I'm saying this because you might be a supporter of Israel. You might have like this big, like this big axe to grind against anyone who is a BDS person or whatever. That doesn't really mean anything in American politics. It doesn't win elections. Most American citizens don't care about that issue. And in my mind, I think she's going to be essentially, and I'm going to talk about it later, probably in an article, she is going to be trying to take the Lindsey Graham role, right? Lindsey Graham ran in 2016 for president, basically as the candidate for the defense contractors and using the AIPAC, stuff, the AIPAC narrative, saying, this is about me, this is about what I do in order to help Israel and everything. And I'm not saying this because I think it's wrong for the U.S. to have a good relationship with Israel. Far from the case, right? Because, given my own personal history, given my own, my family history, I'd want nothing but good relations between the U.S. and Israel, and also between the U.S. and any other country. But it doesn't matter. It's not really an important policy position because in most cases, the president does not really put forward a very significantly different policy towards Israel. I think Trump was probably the most unique case. And people credit that to Nikki Haley, even though she's irrelevant to it. She was in office for about 2 years as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. And it's not a really important position for those of you that don't know. Basically, when the U.S. has an ambassador to the UN, that person goes in order to, vote, say no to certain things. They don't actually have much political power. You get to grandstand a lot. And that's why Nikki Haley is so popular among that faction of the GOP that thinks that what we need is somebody who's basically going to be, saber rattling and talking about Iran and Israel. That's not what gets people to get in line and vote. And if you think that it is, then you ought to drive a couple states over and talk to real people with real problems that are seeing, their children have to deal with a curriculum in schools that demonizes them as a person, that doesn't address drug addiction, that doesn't address the real underlying problems in our society, real problems in terms of unemployment and things like that. So I want to make it clear here that I think Nikki Haley is a horrible candidate. And there's going to be many people who, over the next couple of years, are going to try to continue to pretend that she's going to be a real candidate. But with this one act, I think she's put an end to any chance of actually winning the nomination, let alone the White House, because the majority of voters who chose Donald Trump in 2020 or in 2016, they're not going to go for someone who said things like, oh, I don't think he's going to be in the picture. I don't think he can. He's fallen so far. She says she was disgusted by his conduct on January 6th, and she hasn't really voiced any defense of him during the current impeachment trial. And I would say that it's very telling that at the same time that Nikki Haley's distancing herself from Donald Trump, you even see Alan Dershowitz, who was never a partisan supporter of Trump, and in fact, he at one point said, "Yeah, I'm probably going to still vote for Joe Biden because Alan Dershowitz is a pro-choice liberal." But Dershowitz has repeatedly, invoked the First Amendment and all other free speech protections and other elements of constitutional law, such as bills of attainder, in order to say, no, this is not a constitutional trial. And therefore, I would set out and say that it's even more likely, believe it or not, that Alan Dershowitz, this uber liberal person, I would never vote for him personally, but he would be a more likely candidate for the nomination for the Republican Party in 2024 than Nikki Haley, right? So that's basically what I'm getting at here. The Newsweek article here shows that the Trump trial can't be fair because of both sides of the aisle. Trump was impeached by the House of Representatives for a historic second time in January following the deadly insurrection of the Capitol. Fast forward here, it says, let's understand the whole context. The trial is presided over by a senator who's already expressed his views. The jurors are not only witnesses, they're victims of what happened in the Capitol. And if Republicans vote the wrong way, they're sanctioned. Dershowitz told a C-SPAN caller. Trump had full support from his party during his first impeachment in the House, but in January, 10 Republicans voted in support of his second impeachment. He's likely to be acquitted for a historic second time in the Senate. While some Republicans may vote to convict, seeing the backlash their colleagues in the GOP faced may add to the pressure to acquit. And I agree. Look, it is being more difficult than ever to, voice a second opinion in American politics, right? We have unprecedented censorship. It's more difficult than ever. In fact, Arjun is going through some unprecedented censorship. No, I just put you in timeout. You should be able to comment soon, man. But, man, I mean, who cares about the NFL right now? If you're watching on replay or on BitChute, this was recorded live, so don't mind that. But in any case, this isn't just a matter of Nikki Haley, right? So you have, where is this? So Adam Kinzinger actually came out. Adam Kinzinger is another anti-Trump Republican. And he said that she can't play both sides. He said that she can't have it both ways after publicly breaking with former President Donald Trump. You can't play both sides anymore, Governor. Pick country first or Trump first, Kinzinger wrote in a Friday tweet. The tweet from Kinzinger came in response to a recent interview conducted by Politico with Haley, who previously served her ambassador role under Trump. She spoke about Trump and his role in the deadly January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol when the then president's supporters breached the building in protest of Congress certifying the results of the 2020 election. So it says here, we need to acknowledge he let us down, Haley said. He went down a path he shouldn't have, and we shouldn't have followed him, and we shouldn't have listened to him. We can't let that ever happen again. The former Republican South Carolina governor told Politico that she had not spoken with Trump since the insurrection and responded to the criticism former Vice President Mike Pence faced from Trump. On January 6th, Trump attacked Pence via Twitter, saying that he didn't have the courage to overturn the results of the election, despite Pence having the authority to do so. And then she says, when I tell you I'm angry, it's an understatement. Mike has been nothing but loyal to that man. He's been nothing but a good friend of that man. I'm so disappointed in the fact that despite the loyalty and friendship he had with Mike Pence, that he would do that to him. Like, I'm disgusted by it. Now, apparently it wasn't enough for for Adam Kinzinger, it says when he was contacted by Newsweek, he directed them to the tweet. Kinzinger has been an outspoken critic of Trump and was one of the few Republican House members to vote in favor of impeaching the former president for incitement of insurrection. Trump's second Senate impeachment trial is currently ongoing, and his legal team is scheduled to present its defense of the former president on Monday. So, one of the things that is most evident from this is that not only is there a real faction of the GOP that is pretty willing already to say, oh, well, screw this whole America First agenda, we're just going to move on and go back to being the GOP that was pre-2016. These people can't even agree on how extreme that has to be, on how hard of a break it has to be, because Kinzinger is saying, well, Nikki Haley can't just say, this was enough. We have to abandon Trump. He's saying, oh, she has to say double. She has to go and seriously denounce him and say we're done with him forever, or support the impeachment, or some other such thing, right? That's basically what I interpret from Kinzinger's response. And I want to say this very clearly, okay? What's going to happen is going to be very interesting concerning the so-called Republican people who are the ones that are saying, oh, we need to free the party from the influence of Trump. I think that they're all going to cancel each other out. And it's going to be hilarious, right? It's going to be hilarious for the very simple reason that most of these people are greedy, and they're ego obsessed. They talk about how selfish of a person Donald Trump is. That's fine as far as I'm concerned. I don't think that he's perfect by any means. I think he was certainly flawed. I think we now know that he was not really capable of producing the change that would need to reform the country. I don't know if there ever will be a person. I think America as a concept might be completely corrupted. I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm not one of these people who's going to try to white pill you like other people, which I'm not going to get into. I actually have something that I could talk about that was a personal conflict with another YouTuber that I think would, I'm just going to try to keep it civil at this point, because I think, I think we reached some sort of understanding. But, and it's, by the way, it's not about viewpoints. It is about actual problems that I had with this person. But I wanted to be clear here that these people don't have the answer, and they clearly don't understand the reason that the Trump presidency even happened. So the other group that has arisen out of the ashes is this group fronted by Evan McMullin. It says dozens of former Republican officials, including Evan McMullin, in talks to form an anti-Trump third party. Now, why are they featuring McMullin? First of all, Evan McMullin is a former CIA officer and former congressional aide who was a 2016 candidate for president as an independent. And he was basically saying, oh, we're the principled conservatives who are going to oppose Donald Trump because he's such a danger to the integrity of the republic. Now, let's not lose sight of the fact that despite all the danger that they were warning about with Donald Trump, apparently it wasn't that big of a danger to the republic. Why? Because seemingly he was able to be removed only through electoral process, right? He was able to be impeached. He was able to be impeached 2 times. Now that he's out of office, they still won't leave him alone. And the idea that now you're going to form a breakaway party that's specifically going to be only about opposing Donald Trump, even though we don't even know if he's going to be a candidate in the future, shows that this is literally a psychological obsession of these people, right? Now, I am pretty open in saying that I don't know if Donald Trump is going to have a career in the future. He's certainly going through a lot of financial pressure. He's going through a blacklisting on the internet, right? And he is, he's become unpersoned, right? So we have to be realistic here. I don't know what's going to happen with him, right? But like Dave is saying in the chat, thank you, Dave. Some people do put helpful comments. He rents space free in their head. It's ridiculous. So there's going to be an anti-Trump party. Evan McMullen's results in the what is it? This so Evan McMullen. So this 2016 election campaign, it garnered only about 700,000 votes. He was the fifth place vote earner behind the Green Party and the Libertarians. And people were saying in late August 2016, polling nationwide and in most states placed McMullen in the 1% to 2% range. So he didn't even get that. Late October polls in Idaho showed McMullen with about 10% of the vote. While during the same period in Utah, polls showed him with between 20% and 30% of the vote. But it didn't happen, and the truth is that it never. The idea that you're going to get a Dr. Evil looking. Let's just look at his picture. You think this person is going to be a president? Do you think this person is the type of a former CIA agent who suddenly decides, oh, I am the person to save American politics from this evil monster? No, people are, and there's people of various backgrounds that, I think Dave is English or British at least. I don't know what part of Britain he's from. Arjun is from India, and we have Kiana, who's American, obviously. I would say that my audience, while not large, is spread out pretty far. And do any of you think that this so-called principled conservative party would be a success? Probably not. Now, why are they highlighting him? This is an article from KSL, which is the Salt Lake City news station. And the truth is that he was, he was a celebrity in Utah. He was a failure in Utah. And Trump won Utah twice without his help. Nobody cares about who he is, right? Excuse me. And the truth is that I think if the Republican Party wants to have a future, it has to become a true opposition party, not just against the Democrats. It has to be an opposition party against the federal bureaucracy, the Pentagon, and things like that, which it's very difficult. It might be impossible for them to succeed that way. But people are waking up to the malicious influence of the security state on the Republic. And I don't think that, look, does anybody really think that Nikki Haley, just because she happens to be, she's female, she's Indian, and she was, popular among a certain segment of the population, do you think that people really think that that's the answer of the country? I don't think so. In any case, his whole campaign was in order to prevent him from winning the election by winning Utah, and it didn't work. And I think that the more time goes by, people in Utah are realizing that they don't really live with a real GOP. They're, slowly the GOP is sliding away from the Romneyites and people like that, but it is a painful slide. It's not really automatic. So there's growing demand for something new among principled Republicans. McMullen tweeted Wednesday night, the GOP is lost in a sea of lies and has clearly become a destructive force. Whether it's a faction operating independently of the GOP or a new party, something new is needed. The status quo is unsustainable. So it says here that they're going to try to bring in through this conference called John Mitnick, General Counsel for the Department of Homeland Security under Trump, former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent, Elizabeth Newman, Deputy Chief of Staff in the Homeland Security Department under Trump, and Miles Taylor, another former Trump Homeland Security official. So a lot of these names are not really that famous. Miles Taylor, I actually wrote an article about him a little while back. You can read about it in American Greatness. But here, I'll go to my page here. He was the guy who claimed to be undermining Trump from within the Trump administration, but never actually gave any ideas about it. The thing about Nikki Haley is that she is hardly Indian. She spent a lot of energy in hiding she's an Indian. I think she's converted to Christianity too. There's very little that's Indian about her. Right, and I think that people will start to point. It's sort of like in some ways a reverse Kamala Harris situation. Unfortunately, I don't really care personally. I don't care what people's religions are. In fact, I think it doesn't really help if a person is religious at all. I think a lot of these religious people who get into politics are corrupted by it. So I think it's largely irrelevant, and that's my opinion. So I don't care if they're Christian, Hindu, or Muslim, or Jewish. I mean, people tell me, why don't you vote for this candidate? Like Bernie Sanders at one point, somebody asked me whether I would vote for him because he's Jewish, and I just laughed at him. Because it doesn't really affect people's actual conduct. You can use religion twisted in order to use it for whatever purpose you want, right? So why even look at it? It's essentially just a red herring. So yeah, I don't think that she's going to be a good candidate. Not even from that perspective. I think that's a fair observation. But back to the topic. You do have this issue right now where there are Republicans who are coming out of the sofa and saying that we're done with America first. We're back to corporations first. We're back to Raytheon first, or Northrop Grumman, I respect those companies' ability to make money and produce whatever they're producing, but they don't get to run the country. That's my difference from the Republican Party. It's one of the reasons I never joined the party, right? Arjun says religion matters in India. It's the political identifier, like race is the identifier in the U.S. Well, it doesn't happen in India. The fact is that you've had Hindu politicians that have been bad in the past. So who cares, right? I know that you've had a Sikh president, I believe, or prime minister, Manmohan Singh, but who cares? So now you have a Hindu politician who might be better, but you've had Hindu politicians who are awful too in the past. So what difference does it make? Depending on a person, people will justify their faith. This was evident with Mike Pence. It was evident with Jeff Sessions. It's evident with all of these people who try to use religion to say, hey, you can trust me. I take my kids to church. That's actually why Evan McMullin was a shitty candidate, because all he would talk about is faith in God, because he was a Mormon and stuff. Like, who cares if you're a Mormon, right? I don't give a shit, right? I don't care if you drink or don't drink, or wear whatever they wear under their clothes or whatever. I've never even met a Mormon. I don't care at all, right? Personally, I don't think the Mormon religion is really a very let's just say I think the Mormon religion is a very odd religion, and I'll leave it at that, because I'm not disposed right now to talk about it at length. So no, I think that Donald Trump changed politics for the better as much as he could, and he still failed. And these people are trying to say, well, because he didn't do this the way we wanted, we're going to go back to behaving the way we did until he came to power, and therefore screwing the country over and failing over and over again. They're going to lose elections. That's what they want to do. And don't get me wrong. I think that they're going to fail also to win the party, which I'll get to before I finish. Another important thing, even The Intercept, which has cocked very hard for the Biden administration, has admitted that. So that they're the people who they pushed out Glenn Greenwald, one of the few people on the left who actually believes in any freedom of speech. So they've come out and admitted that the Biden administration's continued push for Julian Assange's extradition is bad news for journalism. Thanks for stating the obvious. Who was Obama's Senate rival who got caught visiting sex dungeons? I don't know. I don't think he was actually in the Senate, but I didn't know it was that either. But yeah, you're talking about a real problem right now. Those people who are saying, "Oh, we need to save republicanism, we need to save conservatism." Let me put it this way, okay? Kiana is saying because he didn't help us steal more money, he's out. Exactly. That's their mindset. I think she's paraphrasing the mindset of the average politician, GOP and Democrat. The problem with what they're trying to do now. McMullen is talking about, we need principled conservatives. Let me lay it to you very simply, okay? If you are not dead set on fighting abortion, you are not a principled conservative in the United States, okay? I happen to be pro-life. I don't believe that if you're pro-choice, you belong in the conservative movement. And that's something that's a hard no for me. If any of these people, and by the way, while they were doing all their fake principled conservatism shit, under Trump, none of them really said anything about Planned Parenthood. None of them said anything about these laws as happened in Virginia that would allow abortion up to the actual birth of the child, right? And for me, that is one of the hardest lines that I take, abortion, right? And if you're pro-choice, I don't think you belong in the conservative movement or the libertarian movement. From my standpoint, as a person who's more of a libertarian than a conservative, pro-life and anti-abortion beliefs is one of the few real conservative commonalities that I have, because on many things I disagree with them. I believe in separation of church and state. I believe in legalizing marijuana and other controlled substances, right? So I believe if you are not doing your utmost as a person running for office, at least, okay, forget if you're, just living your own life, but if you're running for office and you're not doing your utmost to end these very lax abortion laws, then no, you are not a person who is a quote unquote principled conservative. Also, the Second Amendment is a major hard line for me. So those are two issues. And then, of course, other issues that are, they set me apart from the GOP are that I don't want more deployments overseas. I want to cut defense spending. I don't want to raise it like many Republicans do. And these people are everything that I'm not. So they're not really fighting against abortion. They're not really fighting for the Second Amendment. And you are not really fighting to keep American troops home and remove them from foreign war zones, which is like the Republicans and the Democrats have a problem with that. So that's one of the reasons I think that this will be a failure. Excuse me. So again, I apologize. I'm under the weather. No, it's not the coof. But I apologize for my hoarse voice and everything. The Lincoln Project is proof that being a quote unquote principled conservative is never enough for the people who are on the left. A few months ago, the Never Trump group was raking in tens of millions of dollars. Is it all over? This is an article from today called The Spectacular Fall of the Lincoln Project. In the days leading up to the 2020 presidential election, the Lincoln Project, the viral ad-making Never Trump group, was riding high. Over the previous 11 months, the group's videos and tweets had been viewed tens of millions of times, and it had raised tens of millions of dollars. It had garnered the attention of Trump himself, who regarded the group as a thorn in his side and frequently groused about it both in public and in private. the group was also on the verge of a huge victory, with Trump facing a historic wipeout. The Lincoln Project could claim it played a decisive role in his defeat, particularly for marshaling Republicans to Joe Biden's side, which, by the way, did not happen. So any victory that they claimed would be largely a lie, because they didn't really have much of an effect apart from making a lot of money in the process and pretending to really believe in anything. Because they don't look. I'm not going to say that you can't be a conservative and oppose Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump made many mistakes. I think he failed. I think he failed people of all sorts of backgrounds. But I think that his list of successes are things that most people can never accomplish. So not to get into that, I have to actually leave soon. This is not really the best day for me to do this. I want to do this before the weekend starts. But if Donald Trump couldn't accomplish all of his goals, you can rest assured that these people will never accomplish any goals, because they're all personal failures. Most of them were aides for the McCain campaign in 2008. Remember, John McCain ran in 2008. He was basically just a piñata for Barack Obama, who deserved to win, by the way. Not to, I never supported Obama, but I believed fully that he deserved to win and that he had a mandate. And John McCain was just a joke. I didn't even vote in that election. So the people who are marshaling this Lincoln Project were mainly cast-offs from that campaign, failures, in other words. Here it continues. The Lincoln Project had ambitions of creating a political influence company that would guide campaigns for years to come, while also negotiating with United Talent Agency on a host of projects befitting a multi-platform media behemoth, podcasts, books, movies, even a House of Cards-esque TV series. I love how they wrote that. The last few months have seen all those castle-in-the-sky dreams come crashing down. The 2020 election did not play out as planned. The hoped-for electoral landslide didn't materialize, and it took January special elections in Georgia for the Democrats to win narrow control of the Senate. The group was then stung by scandal. Co-founder John Weaver has been accused of sexually harassing several men, one as young as 14, which is disgusting, and the departure of several other co-founders. On Thursday evening, the group's Twitter account appeared to post direct messages between a since-departed co-founder and a reporter who was working on a story about the group. The posts may have violated federal law. So by this is what's really interesting. I know Tim Pool is going to make a video about this. It's going to be so funny. So if you don't know, yesterday the Project Veritas, which is a real organization with real journalistic credentials, which does lean conservative, so it's not unbiased, they were banned from Twitter for allegedly doxing a Facebook executive. Now, the Lincoln Project likely cheered that on. Now it might be that the Lincoln Project is going to be banned from Twitter. So it is possible that this will end up being basically the story of a group that was hoisted on its own petard. The Lincoln Project expected 2021 to be a coronation. Instead, the group is melting down in spectacular fashion. The allegations against Weaver have subsumed the Lincoln Project in recent weeks. At least 21 men have said that Weaver sent them sexually suggested messages over Twitter and in some cases offered professional help in exchange for sex. Those messages, according to the New York Times, did not lead to physical encounters except in one consensual case, and none of the men accused Mr. Weaver of unlawful conduct. Rather, many of them described feeling preyed upon by an influential older man in the field in which they wanted to work, and believing they had to engage with his repeated messaging or lose a professional opportunity. By the way, somebody I know had insider knowledge of that, Pedro Gonzalez, who's a cool guy, by the way, who I've known for a couple years. In earlier statements about the allegations against Weaver, the Lincoln Project insisted that its founders were unaware of any improper behavior until recently. In a brash statement released after his actions were first reported, the group denounced Weaver as, quote, a predator, a liar, and an abuser, while also claiming the totality of his deceptions are beyond anything any of us could have imagined, and we're absolutely shocked and sickened by it. Like so many, we have been betrayed and deceived by John Weaver. We are grateful beyond words that at no time was John Weaver in the physical presence of any member of the Lincoln Project. So that's what's really funny, that he was a co-founder, but he was never in the physical presence of any member. So how close was this group at all? But subsequent reporting has strongly suggested that the group's founders were aware of the allegations for months and that they were an open secret for much of 2020. Nevertheless, according to reporting from New York, the Lincoln Project continued to hire interns recommended by Weaver even after receiving a warning he would dangle job opportunities to potential victims. Wow, this is pretty bad. Weaver was placed on medical leave in August, but many suspected he was being sidelined as a result of his misbehavior. Several former Lincoln Project employees have asked to be released from non-disclosure agreements so they can speak openly about Weaver's conduct. Ron Steslow, Mike Madrid, and George Conway, all board members, have left in recent months. Jennifer Horn, a co-founder, announced she was leaving in the wake of the revelations about Weaver. When I spoke to one of the founders to raise my objections and concerns, I was yelled at, demeaned, and lied to, Horn said in a statement on Thursday. So they're all turning against each other. They're all turning against each other. The Lincoln Project has responded by repeatedly attacking Horn's character. First, the group released a statement saying she was lying about trying to rein in Weaver and that actually she was out to get the organization over a financial dispute. Horn had demanded, and so they said that she wanted too much money. Long story short, yada, yada, yada. Then on Thursday, the group publicly released on Twitter direct messages between Horn and a reporter in an attempt to discredit a story the reporter was working on. The posts have since been taken down, but it's still unclear how the messages were acquired. Horn tweeted that evening that she did not give the group consent to release them. Concerns about the group's finances have also resurfaced. The Lincoln Project showered firms owned by its co-founders with tens of millions of dollars, with $45 million spent at two advertising companies owned by Steslow and Steve Schmidt alone. More and more, it seems like the founders of the Lincoln Project grew spectacularly rich while ignoring serious harassment complaints against one of their own. Pressed about the group's finances, Schmidt released a Trumpian whataboutism statement. So they're using anti-Trump rhetoric to attack these anti-Trump people, saying the Lincoln Project will be delighted to open its books for audit immediately after the Trump campaign and all affiliated super PACs do so, explaining the cash flow of nearly $700 million have flowed through their organizations controlled by Brad Parscale and Jared Kushner. Now, you can't be an affiliated super PAC, by the way, so that's kind of an irrelevance. The fate of the group's other projects is uncertain, though it seems unlikely that it will soon be cranking out television shows and books. United Talent Agency did not return a quite request for comment about the status of its work with the Lincoln Project. The operating theory behind the Lincoln Project was that to defeat Trump, you need to act like him. Democrats were too afraid to wrestle with him in the mud. The Lincoln Project was more than happy to throw elbows and say things others wouldn't, but since the election, the group has shown itself to be very much like Donald Trump in other ways. Overwhelmed by scandal, it's lashing out in all directions as the accusations pile up. And then there's this other article. We don't have time today, but apparently Rick Wilson, one of the other co-founders of the group, raised like $65,000 in cash for a movie that he never produced, which is sort of like that with less money, but it's sort of like that article I wrote about Danny Glover one time, where he took tens of millions of dollars to produce a movie that he never produced. But in any case, this is a case. This is an example of piranhas devouring each other, and that's exactly what's going to happen over the next few years. Believe me that Donald Trump is benefiting from his silence at the moment. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's really going to help America. I think we need really, some real change in order to push back against this climate that we've had of censorship since 2020 ended, right? And before that, by the way. So the censorship has been ramping up since then. It was ramping up prior to that as well, but in other ways. So with that, I do want to encourage you to like the video, share the video. I will try to upload a version of this, a shorter version of this tomorrow. I forgot to hit the record. You can find it on BitChute and probably on Odyssey here. So remember to follow me on Odyssey. This channel is called @Bold Like a Leopard on Odyssey. There's 2 different channels. Feel free to subscribe to both. And you can also find me on Rumble, right? This is Bongino's channel, but my channel is @ChefLeopard on Rumble. And yeah, I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk more about things like this later. And take it easy.